to the Metal Command Podcast.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Metal Command Podcast. Tony here with you. Always excited to see everybody out there today. And if you do want to support the show, please, by all means, hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell to be notified anytime I do post any kind of content. And if you follow the show on any other form of social media or streaming service, by all means, please give the show a like and a follow there. Today's show, I have a special guest, and that would be Metal Rose from the Iced Earth themed podcast called the Podcast of the Wicked. Of course, this podcast is pretty much your go-to if you want to go on YouTube or any kind of streaming service to follow Jon Schaffer's career, talk about Iced Earth, talk about his court case, and pretty much anything Jon Schaffer has going on, or even any of the former, anything that the former Iced Earth members have going on. You can find a lot of that being discussed on this channel. Metal Rose has also followed Jon's case, probably the closest out of any Iced Earth fans that I know. She is the one that I ended up getting his court transcripts from. She actually sent those to me. And she was followed his case and even went to his sentencing date, his court date. So she's a lot of fun to talk to. And, she's one of those people, like if you're at a metal show, just the vibe that I get from speaking to her. She's just one of those really cool people that you could sit there and hang out with at a concert and just have a blast with. And she has an interesting story as well, and of course has sang in an Iced Earth tribute band on top of it. So as many of you know, I have talked a lot about Jon Schaffer and his court case and Iced Earth in general. I have referenced her a few times as well, and even referenced some of their podcasts. And you know what's really cool about the podcast is these people. The best part about it is that it's real, right? These people aren't like polished journalists. They don't give off any kind of fake vibes. They are just regular metal fans talking about one of their favorite bands. And of course, many of their favorite musicians, including Jon Schaffer himself. And it's a great wealth of information, when you go to their podcast, because they do have former Iced Earth members on it, as well as having Jon on the podcast multiple times now. So anyhow, I wanted to invite Metal Rose onto my show. I came on her show a few months back now, but I wanted to invite her on and talk about how she ended up getting involved in following Jon's court case and how she ended up just getting involved with the band itself, getting to know the members of the band and the former members of the band. So, Iced Earth really isn't a band now, but nevertheless, she's gotten to know Jon pretty well, and I definitely applaud her efforts to really bring to light a lot of the actual factual information about his case instead of the nonsense that has been spewed out here in the media. So with that said, here is my conversation with Metal Rose from Podcast of the Wicked. Welcome, everybody, to the Metal Command Podcast. And today's guest I have is Metal Rose, who many of you have heard me talk about on the podcast. She's one of the hosts of the Podcast of the Wicked. She has also had a couple of interviews with Jon Schaffer and followed his case. Jon Schaffer, of course, being from Iced Earth, and has followed his case throughout pretty much its entirety. And this is a topic I have revisited time and time again when things have come out with Jon. So I figured, what? How about I have the person that hosts that podcast? We've talked a lot, and welcome to the Metal Command.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So let's get into this a little bit. You have followed Jon's case from the beginning. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. What was it about what happened with him that made you want to follow his case and really kind of, basically follow everything that was going on with this throughout, his jail time, and obviously he had his sentencing and the plea deal. You followed pretty much every inch of this. And what was it that made you want to follow this as closely as you have?
Well, there's a couple of things. So back in, I think it was 2016 or 17 when Incorruptible came out.
Mm-hmm.
a boyfriend at the time bought me the album, and like I like had no idea what Iced Earth even really was, other than like the stuff he put on in the car. And I really liked it, and I showed I remember showing the album to like a bunch of girlfriends, and everybody like really liked it. So it was awesome. And then in 2019, he took me to see Demons and Wizards. So I was kind of like a fairly new fan
Okay.
of his. I started getting, then Demons and Wizards came out with Diabolic and Wolves of Winter, and I was like obsessed with Demons and Wizards. I couldn't stop playing the music. It was all so new to me and everything. And then I saw, that picture, the infamous picture of John pointing the angry finger. I had gone to that concert. Everything was such beauty and love. I never saw anything like it. I was crying at the concert, and I barely knew the music, but I could just feel like this feeling in the air, and so when I saw him pointing that angry finger, God, wait a minute. A guy that writes music like that, this is getting overblown. I just knew right away. I looked at that picture and I was like, there's no way. And I had a couple of friends calling me about it, like, this is crazy, and I'm like, I think they're just using that picture to make him look a certain way and make, that day look a certain way, like I just felt like it was all a scam. It was just instincts, like I've seen, I know what the media does,
And the angry finger photo you're talking about is the one that he's pointing at, where he's got the Oath Keeper hat on. I just want to, okay. I just want to make sure that's what that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So like, I just knew, like, what is going on? And then he's on the FBI's most wanted list. I'm like, for what? So I needed to know. So I started to dig in as much as I could. I just started diving in and asking questions and Googling everything I could. It was the weirdest thing. Like, I was getting real into Demons and Wizards, like I said, but like, I knew nothing about Jon Schaffer. So I was like watching interviews and learning like more about who he was. Then like something triggered. I remembered him being on InfoWars. I go, I remember his face.
Right.
I never forgot his face, but I forgot who he was, and I felt like really bad about that. Like, but really, I was a new fan. I barely knew the music. I had just been to that concert and experienced that, and there was something like making me do it. I don't know how to describe that, but there was something that was like kind of making me do that, and I just paid attention. That picture really stood out to me because I know what the media does. So
yeah,
that's that,
I mean, when I saw the photo, the thing was, and people need to keep in mind, when I first saw Iced Earth, there were 6 people there. I mean, this was back in 1999, 98,
Wow.
99. And then I remember there were 6 people there. I remember meeting John. I actually sat down in front of him at a table. It was at a small venue, probably 40 minutes away from here. It was in, the sort of the Cleveland area, but it was a place called the Flying Machine. I remember it was Iced Earth, Jag Panzer, and Anvil.
Nice.
And so the funny thing I'll tell you the funniest thing in the world, and I talked to John for a little bit, and then we did an interview after the show, and I just remember I met Mark from Jag Panzer. He was a super nice guy, but I just remember sitting at this table, and John was sitting next to me, and then we watched Lips from Anvil whip out and do the dildo solo, and John just look at me like this look of like, what the hell is this? It was a really funny look, right? But here's the thing: the interesting thing was there really weren't a lot of people there, and I just remember sitting down face to face. Now at this point, I'm like not even 21 years old yet, right? So I'm sitting down with this dude, and he's probably in his early 30s at this point.
Yeah.
And I still thought that, these guys like Mark from Jag Panzer and then, John, I just thought these guys, regardless of how many people showed up, I thought these guys were like rock stars in a sense, right? So and then I remember Live in Athens came out, not long after. and you just, you have this crazy 3-disc live album that was being promoted. So I get where you're coming from. The interesting thing was I didn't know what happened. So I did the opposite. I kind of stood back. There was nothing for me to really dig into, and I didn't want to say anything about the guy. I've told you this, and I just wanted to see how it played out. And I had this gut feeling he was getting railroaded. So
certainly was.
But yeah, and we know that now, but I didn't want to say anything. So I kind of just kept to myself, and I just kind of paid attention. And then for those that don't know, when he made his statement, I decided, you know what, I'm going to say something about this guy and kind of make a brief thing about it. And then that's how I came in contact with you. And we had the court transcripts. I didn't get those till after we had our discussion, but it told me pretty much what I thought, and that this guy had like a very minuscule part in anything that happened. So, but it's really cool that you did follow it, because there was a lot I didn't know about his sentencing in the transcripts and things that the judge said, and we could talk about that. But
yeah,
so you dug into it. So as you were digging into it, how did you end up getting to meet him and be able to talk to him?
Well, a lot of that. Well, okay, so I started an Iced Earth tribute band because I knew he didn't do anything wrong, and I played the That Metal Show Holiday Bash, which is like the guys from That Metal Show. It's Jim Florentine, Don Jamieson, Eddie Trunk, and they were like, they could have said, we don't want this. This was right after. That was like the year that it happened. Like this was like the December after the J6th.
Right.
So it was that same year, and they accepted us and they loved what we did. And I started hearing from some of his friends that he was aware of me. So that's all I really knew. And time, went on, and I just kept researching the case, and I would get, I would hear, different updates about when the court date was going to be through some of his friends. And I asked one of his close friends if it was okay if I come to the court date. So I met him at the court date. He, said it was great to meet me. He knew who I was. So I guess his friends must have told him what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have the internet or any of that. So that's how I came into contact with him. I met him at his court date, and I gave him a big folder of messages and pictures of the fans that loved him.
Mm-hmm.
Made sure that I wanted him to know that there were a lot of people that had his back. People wrote letters. There was such an outpouring. Like, I just wanted him to know that, because I'm sure he just thought everybody hated him based on those headlines. But yeah, that's how.
Well, every media outlet was just piling on the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a big reason why I had the roundtable discussion, was because of that. Because the thing I remembered was him handing me a long sleeve, handing me a double CD of Days of Purgatory, which had just come out maybe a year or two before Something Wicked did.
Yeah.
And he shook my hand and he goes, "Hey man," he goes, "I really thank you for supporting us." And, to somebody that first starts a radio show and you start meeting some of these bands, I was like floored with that. And I've always remembered that. So, I get it. And I just felt that people were just kicking the guy when he was down for like 4 years. But I'm also one of those people too. I like to wait until all the information comes out, and I wait to hear from them before I comment on anything. So I get it. What an interesting way to meet somebody too. Like, you meet one of your favorite musicians at his court date. That has to be like, it's like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm a big fan of yours. By the way, I'm here at your court date." And it was kind of funny.
It was funny because, I mean, I suppose I'm a fan now, and like I said, I was a fan of Demons and Wizards and stuff, but
Sure.
For my situation with Jon Schaffer is that the music is a great bonus, but it's the man that really intrigued me, like just watching interviews about him and everything. So, I was there thinking, I'm here at a genius's court date, really. Not so much like that I'm like I'm a fan of your music or whatever. I just thought, he's a genius, but he made a mistake. He miscalculated what J6 was. And it sucks because I just felt like, it was probably one of those things he just like overthought it because he thought that democracy was in trouble. Just from, if you watch interviews of that guy throughout the years, you would immediately realize that that's probably what was going through his head.
Sure.
And
yeah.
Who's to say it wasn't? I'm not here to comment on that really, but my bass player who was there, and he used to wait around the tour buses, and like John never came out, but he met other members of Iced Earth and stuff like that, and he went at the end of the court day. He goes, "I've been waiting to shake your hand since I was 16 years old, man." And John just, he just sort of like perked up and smiled. Like it was cool.
So here's the big question. How much shit have you gotten for supporting this guy?
Well, I don't have some friends anymore. I've upset some people in the New Jersey metal community. I've upset people from all around the world. I have global hate, but I also have global love. So it's kind of even. It's really not. It's really 50-50. I'm not going to lie and say it's 75-25 or any of that. It's 50-50. People are really kind, and then people are really hateful. And, but I don't really block those people. I just let it go. It's really funny. I was saying on my last podcast, there's a technique that some of these people have. They go to my page, they laugh, react, and then they block me. Like, so like all my posts and stuff. It's so silly. Like, if that's what you're going to waste your time doing because you don't like me, I don't really like, go ahead. At least, you know what? At least they're laughing at me and they're not going out and like, punching the crap out of somebody or causing a war or something. Let them laugh at me. That's fine.
Oddly enough, if anything that I've ever said, as far as like people go commenting, I've really run into almost none of that. But I will tell you that there's a record label that will have nothing to do with me now because of it. I won't tell you who that is. I'll tell you who it is afterwards, but there are people there that were obviously very offended by it. And I noticed I wasn't on their mailing list anymore. And their publicist won't have anything to do with me. So that's something that happened, but I didn't really receive a lot of like hate for it. Honestly, there were a couple comments, but I'll be honest with you. I had a lot of people that were like glad somebody broke the situation down. And I didn't have the flack from that. I had certain people in the music business that don't want anything to do with me because of it. I mean, one of them, there's a couple people, one of them, I can't really prove that, but they coincidentally stopped speaking to me because of it. But, I was always curious about that because I remember when we were talking, when we did that discussion, I remember Justin was like, in the beginning of it, if anyone that watches that, the very beginning of it, he said that when it all happened, he had a profile picture of him where there's a Iced Earth banner behind him. And, he got a lot of crap for that. And then he had really spoken about it. And then he decided to speak about it. He goes, I know I'm going to get a lot of crap for this. And he really didn't. The responses were actually pretty. I think a lot of people were afraid to say anything about it that were supportive of him because they were afraid of the cancel culture. So it was really, again, and it was really cool. And I think the fan interview that you did with him recently was really cool. Because there were some things that were asked about him, that were asked to him. And I think it was kind of cool to hear that side of it. But watching how he is now, he's a lot different than when I met him. Not in a bad way, but I'm just saying in general. I met him before the beard. I mean, I don't think he had the goatee or anything back in those days. He back in the old days, but it was definitely when I started watching your show, I was really intrigued by a lot of the things you all talked about, in regards to what happened with him. But the fan interview was interesting. How was that received? Because a lot of people, you know how it is. People cherry pick the Stu Block comment and try to make that sound worse than it was, and I commented on that, and people just like every one of these media outlets, it said, you had an hour long. How long is the interview? 2 hours, an hour, something like that.
Yeah, it's like almost. Yeah, it's almost. I think it's almost 2 hours.
So 2 hour interview with all this information in there, and they picked that one spot.
But he didn't even say what they said he said. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel sorry for Stu. He reacted to the Iced Earth on the Iced Earth page to our interview.
Yeah.
And he wrote that he was gutted on his Facebook, and that sucks, man. Like, I'm sorry that he feels bad. The media made it out to be something that it wasn't, though.
Sure.
So I hope he got a look at the clip and understands. I mean, and not for nothing. I kind of giggled when Jon said that. And the reason I giggled when I said that is because I've seen people's true colors too. So I kind of can understand where Jon's coming from. And I guess it's, just was almost second nature. I wasn't giggling because I think it's, I'm not laughing at Stu, but I'm laughing at the fact that Jon kind of saw, through what happened. I don't know. I like Stu a lot, so it's tough to say sometimes, but he did put out that post. And, he was cheering it on, and then he backed away, and that I still think, I mean, I don't care if he does this on my show or answers this on my show. I would never make him do that or put him in an awkward position, but I want to know what was going through his head by cheering it on and then backing off the way he did, if he was truly like one of Jon's close friends,
Right.
So I can't help but question that from time to time, but that, I don't think that means he's a bad person or anything, but maybe he just felt he was a hired gun in Iced Earth and it really wasn't a brotherhood. I don't know. I can't speak for him, but that's what I would personally like to know about the situation. And yeah, the media they just do what they do, unfortunately. So,
I mean, he sang in my favorite Iced Earth album. It is what it is, right?
I love Stu's work.
So do I.
I love all of the stuff that he does. There's, he wasn't a bad friend to me. You know what I'm saying? So it,
for me, it was more like, it's a kind of like live and let live type mentality. It happened. We may not be friends. We may not hang out, but there's no hate. There was no hate to the point where I'm angry about these albums that we did. I mean, they're obviously very proud of it. I think he probably, in all honesty, I think Stu Block ended up getting a lot of crap. I watched a lot of people going at him. Hansi pretty much ended up getting flack from both sides because
I know.
He got the worst of it, because what ended up happening was,
oh God, that was horrible.
I was watching the comments on the Blind Guardian page. Anything Blind Guardian would post, Hansi is a Nazi, Hansi is this, Hansi is that. And then he doesn't even say anything, and Demons and Wizards is basically no more. And then all of a sudden now the right wingers and the people that support Jon are going after him. So, he can't win, so I felt bad for the guy. I mean, he's another one that, early on in the days of the show, and he's been on my radio show before and stuff. I mean, I felt bad for the guy because, how do you
Didn't deserve any of that. Didn't deserve
no,
any of
and
that.
think about this. How much real information did he even have about what was going on?
I don't know. Really, I don't hope. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Somebody called.
So that's just one of those crazy things. He ended up getting a lot of that crap, even though, John said he talked to him. I mean, the amount of vitriol this guy was receiving was crazy. And then, I think when the Blind Guardian album came out, not long after, I think not long after, I think a lot of it died down. But man, it was bad. Man, I remember they had him front and center there with the finger point, which ironically, that hat probably helped him get out of jail because of the plea deal. So, pretty
it's so crazy.
Yeah. So you mentioned on one of your interviews that, the Sons of Liberty thing was your favorite, your favorite album that John did. Out of curiosity, why would that be?
Well, I'm very patriotic and it's in my blood. And when I heard that music, I just feel a special connection, almost similar to the connection I felt when I heard songs like Power to the People and Give Peace a Chance and Imagine from John Lennon. It makes me feel, I feel my roots. I can feel all of the different warriors in my soul when I hear that music, just to be honest.
Yeah. I remember, so when Sons of Liberty came out, I didn't know what it was. Weirdly enough, I was halfway through reading The Creature from Jekyll Island when I ended up getting the album.
Wow.
And then I'm listening, and I look at the title. I'm like, this is crazy stuff, man, because I was just reading this book. And so, the funny thing about it was I actually interviewed him like maybe a year after that whole thing came out. But I remember then I saw him in Alex Jones, and he saw him on, a lot of these other places when he was talking. But I'm looking at, I was reading that book, and then that song came on. And back then, I think Sons of Liberty, a lot of the stuff that's in there, you see people talking a lot about it now. Back then, nobody even knew what he was talking about and a lot of that stuff. Most people didn't know. Most people weren't aware of many of the things that were being discussed, as far as being brought up in that music. And now, and I think it's great that he's reissuing it because I think it has more relevance now because a lot of this stuff is more out in the open. That's where I was trying to go with it. So and I went back and listened to that album again, and the EP that came out. Forgot how much I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's even more than just a reissue because he's putting real drums on it this time. So it's not going to just be the he discussed it on the show. The drum tracks have been laid down, and that's what makes it not necessarily a reissue, but like almost, a little, I guess it's going to be more improved. And he was saying on the show that there's going to be a new album cover too. Because the album cover that they put together back then was more basic. So yeah. I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
Favorite Iced Earth album and why?
Oh boy.
You got to pick one. Mine is Dystopia, closely followed by Something Wicked. Very, very close.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe it just sounds cliche, but Dark Saga, and it's like not so much like the Spawn element of it, but the music is very relatable. And then I would say Something Wicked. And I mean, if we're gonna go, I could go with Stu Era too, and I would say Incorruptible, because it's just such a great album, like what it stands for, and the vocals, and Ravenwing is on it, so stuff like that,
Yeah, Incorruptible was, I'll tell you what, the interesting part about that record for me, I remember when it came out, I was in one of these moods where Iced Earth was not a band I was really into. And then when the whole incident happened, I don't know what it was. I just felt like listening to that music. and I put that album in again, and I'm thinking like, what was I thinking? Why did I get into this back when it came out? I remember getting the promo for radio, and just being like, sometimes when I get promos, I sometimes am not in the mood
Sure.
to like listen to that kind of music. It's happened.
Yeah, of
And
course, of
and then a
course.
few years later, I get back into the band, and that's that album. I decided I'm going to check this out because I swear I liked this. I swear that I really didn't give this album a chance. Same thing with Crucible of Man. That was the other one I was kind of had to revisit that I wasn't as big on when it came out because I just wasn't in the mood to listen to them. When that album came out, and it's weird because that sometimes happens with bands for me.
Well, I mean, with Crucible of Man, it seemed to me like just from my interviews with Jon, well, the interview, not interviews, but my interview with Jon, it seemed like, he, wasn't feeling that album as much. Like, I think he felt it was like more forced or something. So I could see putting that one off for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Incorruptible has, the Great Heathen Army, Black Flag, like I said, Raven Wing, and the Seven-Headed Whore's a banger. Ghost Dance, that one's awesome. And then there's Brothers, and then like those, like I could like even Clear the Way, like so many of those tracks. I love those tracks, and I performed some of them too. And I don't know. Like Clear the Way was a weird one to do because, there's like, there's like sounds of the soldiers and everything, like, and, so we had to kind of like cut around different things to do that song, but that was a cool one to do live. And Black Flag, I love doing Black Flag. Like that stuff, I feel that stuff. I don't know.
Right. Well, you don't hear of many Iced Earth tribute bands, so I'm curious. You brought up that you played, a pretty big show. When you play out with that band, what's that like? What's the response like? Because it has to be interesting, especially with everything that happened.
Well, it's been a while. Our guitarist had to step down for personal reasons, both of them. So, basically, but what I will say is, the reception was so warm for the holiday bash. I was nervous, but there was, I don't know if this was because of the tribute band or just coincidental or something, but someone threw like a drink at me from across the room. But we're in an Iced Earth tribute band, so like my backup singer's like, where was it? Where was he? Who was it? Like right away, So like, that happened that one night. That was weird. And then there was another time where like a guy came out because he didn't like Iced Earth and he wanted to know why somebody, would do an Iced Earth tribute band. And, why would you do this when he went to that thing, and he just like sat there and like kind of like argued with us at the bar. And like, the whole tribute band, like it was more like with my singer, not even with me. I'm like the leader here. But my backup singer, she's talking to this guy, and she's like, well, because I don't know if she's saying that because I don't care. I don't remember the exact dialogue, but he was just like complaining, like the whole tribute band like stood around just waiting for this guy, and even the security guy, the place, one of the places we play, they're big Iced Earth fans, and they had Brent Smedley actually his band Out of Darkness there, and like they were like, drinks on the house for that guy and everything, like, and they were happy the tribute band kept Brent Smedley at the bar a little longer. They were just happy like to like host everybody, and it was cool. Yeah. So like they're a lot of the places I played, they're fans of the music, and most people don't give crap, but there were two people, I've had financial offers though for it, like like not bad financial offers to do it and try to revamp it. So
you have evidently made an impact then with that, because I don't know of any other Iced Earth tribute bands that I've ever heard of. I mean, I could be wrong, but
there are a few around the world. There's one right now in Brazil called Hellspawn, and they're pretty good. But yeah, I mean, a lot of them are inactive. Hellspawn's active right now.
Yeah, not much in the States though.
Yeah, there was one I saw like from Chicago or something, but that was pre J6. Then I don't think they
Yeah.
disband over that or anything like that. But I mean, I can imagine it's kind of like a weird. It is a weird thing to do, just because, like, I guess it's niche. I guess for some people, that's what I was told. Like, a lot of different clubs and stuff. So I can imagine, why people could disband. I mean, I know why we did, and the reason it's hard to find like other guitarists is because Jon, especially a rhythm guitarist, is because of the way Jon plays. He plays so unique that you can't just get any old guy off the street to play the guitar for an Iced Earth tribute band.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. The sequence of everything, it's that right hand.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting though, because the fact that you still have offers for it, I think is great, because that means you made some kind of impact with it. And I don't think, you're pretty much in touch with a lot of the fan base. You go into a lot of the groups. I don't really frequent Facebook groups for that reason, for a lot of reasons.
Really either. Iced Earth is just the only.
Yeah. And it's like there's so many. I don't think there's as much hatred there for the guy as
a
lot of people think.
Yeah, no, the groups are like, a good place. That's why, like the like page, or what is it called now? Like the fan page, like page, I don't know, verified page, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of people that love him on there too, but then there's like the idiot trolls that show up on occasion. A lot of them have gone. There's not as many.
No.
But the groups, yeah, like I haven't really, like, on occasion, like back when it was first going on, you would catch a hater in there or something, but most of the people left. Although there was a funny group. There's a group called like X Iced Earth fans. It was like an emotional support group for fans that were upset with what happened that day.
Are you being serious?
Funny. Yeah, I'm being serious.
Ex Iced Earth fans?
Yeah, it's something like that. I can like quickly like look it up, but yeah, it's got Jon pointing the finger, and it's got the QAnon shaman like as the picture. But yeah, it's so silly. I joined it for like a day just to see what it was. Former / ex Iced Earth fans. That's what it's called. There's 102 members. And when I went in there, like I said, it was like an emotional support group. It was like, I don't know what to do with these emotions with what Jon did. And like, the only reason I'm laughing is just because it's so silly that people are that invested. That, like, something that didn't even happen on their front porch, they're like crying about, and like they need group support. I mean, I guess his fans are that hardcore too. Like they're like that dedicated that they felt betrayed, like all 102 of them, or I don't know.
I thought I've heard everything.
Yeah, that was one of the funniest things I ever encountered. But yeah, I was quickly removed from that group. So. I wasn't too bad in there. I was nice. I was just like, you need to look at another side of it.
I really have nothing for you on that. I don't even know I don't know where to begin. That's crazy. I mean, people.
That's what happens. You find things like this when you're deep diving Iced Earth, like I was.
Where do we go from there? So Anyhow, we'll move on to the next topic here, because I'm trying to really hold back from laughing at that somebody that they did that. A lot of people do stupid stuff. It just it happens. A lot of these band members have done dumb things. Not just in Iced Earth, but anywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, who was it? It might have been. It might have been Scott Ian from Anthrax broke into the spring training baseball field for the Yankees, like, I don't know, like 25 years ago, and he ran the bases. I mean,
let's make a group about that. Like,
yeah, I mean, I still laugh at that to this day.
It's pretty funny.
He wanted to see the Thurman Munson monument, I think. I don't remember how it went, but I just remember like people were like mad at him for that. So
I'm throwing out my record now.
That was like the early days of the internet when that whole thing happened. So, there was no social media back in those days. I just remember stuff like that. People have done some very dumb things. I mean, but
yeah.
I just think that I don't understand how you be traumatized by that. It's
I don't know. They weren't really following, John's message the whole time, probably.
Yeah.
That's what it is,
Yeah. No, I get it. If you've obviously interacted with him quite a bit, and you've gone through, his court case. The one thing I think that was interesting about the court case is the fact that the judge went and watched his performances and went in the courtroom and said, "It's not my cup of tea." but you are somebody that unites people. I thought that was interesting because you read how pretty much everybody was just throwing the book at these people.
I know. Well, that judge was a hip hop fan. So
okay.
Of course he's not going to like Iced Earth, but my bass player's like, "He's screwed. Look at this judge." And I was looking at him and I was like, well, he doesn't like, by appearances, he didn't look like too rough. He didn't look like,
yeah,
kind of fresh faced, or I don't know what to call it, but just seemed like yeah, all right. And then like listed in the description about the guy, he says he likes hip hop. I said, well, I don't think that the hip hop thing's going to turn him off. I think they paired Jon with a guy that likes music.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I said they sometimes they do that. They pair the judge with somebody that, maybe they'll kind of empathize or understand the guy a little even. I don't know. But
yeah,
I said, I think that that's a good sign because I said, I think he's going to understand the power of music. And I was right. So I was happy about that. He gave quite a speech. I mean, look, that was a funny day. Like we're all like dressed up in suits. We got like Matt Barlow and Freddie Vidalis there. So we have Ashes of Aries there and, Jon and, a couple of the friends. And it was just, I always say, like, just think about, I say it to my bass player, think of us all walking down the street to the Night Court theme, But, that was a crazy day, but that judge really complimented him. And it was a long speech. I was like, I was scribbling it down because I brought my notebook and everything, and I'm thinking to myself, when is this going to be over? I mean, this is like a big love fest, but not in like a nasty way, but like at the same time, I'm like, what is happening here? So Jon got really lucky. He got a fair judge who looked at the evidence and said, well, you messed up, but you know what? Like, we're not going to like ruin your whole life over it. And he understands the power of music. So
right. So I have to ask you this: when you first saw the Razor Fist videos about Jon, what was your reaction to them? Actually, the Razor Fist video, especially the one I'm thinking about, is when he ended up getting his sentence. I think that video, when Razor Fist talked about that, I was rolling. I was laughing so hard.
Oh my God. He's just so on point, that guy. He's really intelligent.
Yeah.
And you know what? I just think he's hysterical. I'm really happy he did those videos. They were very powerful. And the thing is, they live to this day, like in those groups. People are like, just a daily, like a monthly reminder or whatever. Jon Schaffer did nothing wrong, like, and they'll throw Razor Fist's video there. I mean, I also think the guy has a lot of balls. I really do. Like, he really just says what he thinks. And I wish I wish I were as sharp as Razor Fist. That's all I'm saying.
It was funny because think about Jon. If you go through all this and then you log on to YouTube and then you see that.
Yes. I'm so happy about it.
I mean, I remember when it happened, and he didn't do just 2 videos. There was the Metal Media video when he went out, where Jon told Brave Words that they would be the 51st state, and actually I remember I have that magazine, I believe, where he said that, if I remember correctly. It was in one of the printed magazines. I think I still have it, but the Razor Fist thing was pretty funny. He was flipping out, going off about Dee Snider, talking about Jon. So, the videos were absolutely that he did for that was crazy. And I'm sure that, because I remember when, you put the question out there and he kind of like smirked a little bit, but he didn't really comment too much about it. He just said it was funny.
Yeah. Well, I think this is only speculation, but I can only imagine, it was funny for Jon, but, it was a traumatizing time. So maybe he's just not trying to, continuously think about it. That's probably, I don't know. That's just my assumption. I don't know.
Yeah. One of the things I'm glad that happened is that he was able to, do some of these first interviews with people that, he actually trusts and he actually has a very good rapport with, because I can only imagine the amount of vultures that would be out there that would be trying to ask him a loaded question or, try to spin something in a way that it shouldn't be. And so when he did the first interview, again, it's someone that, at the church that he's at, that he's doing that interview with. And I think it's great that he has that outlet now, because, when you go through something like that, and then you have to think to yourself, well, who can I trust at this point? Because you just think about all of the people that, you don't know who's going to stab you in the back. You don't know who's going to be that a-hole that's looking to like bring this guy in and just, say stuff just to get clicks out of it. You have to kind of navigate that a lot more carefully, because you brought it up. There's a lot of people, especially now, if you have any kind of status, that people are looking, just people in general, human nature right now in this country, especially, they're just looking to bring somebody down to get their like 15 minutes of fame. Mm-hmm. So, one of the things I was glad to see was that he had some people that he could go through, that he trusted enough to do that stuff. So he can kind of get out there and talk to people without having the feeling of, okay, is this person going to screw me over, or is this person going to say something that's pointed? Yeah.
I mean, he really, I'm going to say this much. Like, I mean, for all things, like, he didn't really know me. How did he know I was going to be? I mean, I guess I was very vocal about supporting him, but I mean, I'm very fortunate to have spoken to him. Levi, obviously he seems very comfortable, like after, like you see that interview, like they seem to be friends, very comfortable. And then his lawyers, now he works for them. Like, they of course you'd feel comfortable talking about your case with your lawyers.
Yeah.
And now he did that interview with Tom Woods too. I don't know if you saw that one.
I did. Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. We did the fan questions, and that's a whole other side of Jon's story, and it's pretty interesting. And you can see with each interview he's getting more and more comfortable talking to people. So
yeah, the Tom Woods interview was very good.
Yes,
and I would definitely, I mean, some of the stuff he talked about, I think what he did, there were some things from some of his other interviews he brought up, but yeah, it was actually very, very good listening to that and being able to hear him talk. And I didn't, to be honest with you, I didn't even know who Tom Woods was, but the interview was great. But
I heard about him because he's the one that found John the lawyers. I heard about him.
Yeah. So I think that, again, you know, you say, well, I don't understand. Why does he go through me? So I'll tell you a funny story. I remember so long ago now, probably, God, 26, 27 years ago. I remember one day, it was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I remember asking Wyke from Halloween. It said, you know, you didn't even meet me. Well, you met me, but you didn't really know me. Why would you want me to work with you guys? And he just looked at me and he said, I just had the vibe, the way this isn't verbatim how the conversation went, but he's like, you just seem like someone I could trust. That's literally what he said to me.
That's awesome.
You know, how do you know? I mean, sometimes you can get that vibe with people, and
yeah,
it's very rare for me, but there are people that I trust, and it happened right away. And it's weird because then there's people you vet them.
Yeah.
And then you're pulling the knife out of your back, right? So
yeah,
it's just like, you know, it's like, how do you know? But I think he seems very comfortable with coming on your show because it's not like formal. It's not really super formal. It's like you can kick back, you can talk as if you're just hanging out with some people. And he always, in the interviews that he's done, he feels so much, feels like he's so much more relaxed, right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember seeing one from him doing, like, it was with one media outlet. I'm not going to name names, but they were like pressing him about the C-19 stuff and everything.
Oh, I know who that was. Yeah, I remember that interview. Yeah.
And he wasn't having it.
No.
You know, but he was very polite about it.
Yeah. That interview, if I remember, if it's the same one we're talking about, I remember them saying something. And I remember his response was something like, well, yeah, that's not what happened. This is the truth. This is what happened. And he just kind of like wouldn't let them. Yeah. I remember that interview, if it's the one I'm thinking of. But yeah, I mean, again, though, I think it's great what you guys, you know, on that show have done, because I honestly believe that this guy was getting such a bad rap for so long, and just a constant, oh, the traitor Jon Schaffer, you know, is going for sentencing, or he has a plea deal. And it was like every headline I saw about this guy was it was some outlet just kicking him when he's down.
Yep.
And to me, you know, and he couldn't defend himself.
Mm-hmm.
So he can't say anything. He's getting people just bad mouthing the dude constantly. And then you go and you listen to him talk, and it's like, really? I mean, there are so many people that have done so much worse in this scene.
Oh, I know.
You know, I mean, there are so many people that have done so much worse in the metal scene. People that have kicked their dog, beaten their girlfriend, hiring hitmen to kill their wife. You know, I mean, you know, it's like, and people get mad at this dude for walking into a building for 10 minutes, getting pepper sprayed when he had a water bottle and a can of bear spray. You know,
it's amazing. It's amazing to me.
I think it was like Razorfist was like, he had a lethal arsenal of a water bottle and bear spray. Yeah. So, I mean, again, so and I thought it was kind of crazy too, when he was talking about the case, they tried to say his sunglasses were like a lethal weapon or something like that. Like, do you remember that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
His Oakley sunglasses. So, but I think it's great that what you've been doing with him. I am actually looking forward to the Sons of Liberty thing. I think
me too.
The message involved with that, and anybody that goes to that first interview, any of the books that are listed, are really must read. So there's a few others I could list and throw in there, but you know, those are a very, very good start because a lot of what Sons of Liberty is about is contained in those books. I mean, it really helps. It's kind of like when you get like an album and then you have like a companion book with it to kind of go in depth on the story of the record, right? Like if it's a concept album, that's kind of what those books are. Those books are a complement to really help people better understand what a lot of those songs were written about.
Yes.
And I would encourage anybody to go there. You know, maybe I'll list the books in there.
Yeah, why not?
And I'll list a few of my preferences as well of things. And but I think it's great that you are doing this. And I love the fact that, you know, you did a fan interview and you just did kind of a casual chat conversation.
Yeah. I mean, he's a cool guy to do it with. I mean, I did one with Matt Barlow too, where we did fan questions. It was sort of the experiment because I knew John was going to come on and do fan questions.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm happy to have these guys on the show in general, all of them, because it's really about bringing a community that felt broken back together. And it's okay. Like, you know, like John made a little mistake, but, you know, just like he even said with Stu, like, just forgive him. It's not really that big of a deal. It's not like he went and killed somebody or, you know, did something real horrible. Like you said, he was in the building for 10 minutes. You know, maybe he shouldn't have been there, but it's really not that big of a deal. Like, you know, like just move on with it. It's really not, you could listen to the music, you know, you can engage with our groups and stuff, you know, like you can even have a differing opinion, like, you know, than some of us, you know, you know, don't like what he did, but we still like the music. And some of us are big fans of what he did. And, you know, but everybody meets in the middle with love for, you know, what he's done for the community in general and what he's done with the music, you know? So like, you know, healthy debates are welcome. Just, you know, don't be a total dick.
You know, speaking of Matt Barlow, I remember being a 20-year-old kid and watching him walk into the venue when I first saw them. And you see this big, tall, redheaded dude with lots of facial hair. And that guy, I mean, he kind of intimidated me a little bit. And then he looked at me, said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm like,
I know, he's like so mellow.
I know. Like, but I see this. I mean, back then, you know, you see him now, but back then I said this to him in the interview. I go, dude, you intimidated me. He walked in. I see this big, tall guy walk in, red, long hair, red beard. I mean, he looked like a freaking Viking when he walked in there.
Oh, I know.
And
back then, yeah.
And I remember looking up at him and I'm like, damn, I hope I don't piss this guy off. You know, it's just, and then you talk to him. I had actually, believe it or not, in all the years I've done my show, I had never interviewed him before, like once.
I'm so glad you got to. Isn't he so cool? He's just,
yeah, exactly. So we're talking, and it's like, man, I've never interviewed this guy, so I'm asking him stuff that I might have asked. I would have, you know, questions that I would have pretty much posed to him way back in the day, but I'd never interviewed this dude. So I finally had the chance to do it. And it was just a lot of fun reminiscing about the old days. But I still remember that show where like there were barely any people there. They played as if they were playing in front of like a crowd of 10,000. And it was such a fun time, even though there was like practically nobody there. You know, so
it's so wild. You're lucky.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to think about now, but then you go and see the success that he had.
Yep.
It's mind blowing that I remember seeing this band, because the next time I saw them, which was a few years later, it might have been it was when Tim joined. So it was obviously years later. I mean, there were a ton of people there, but they had success in Europe. You know, like every great metal band was big in Europe and Japan. It just, you know, back then. Yeah. But it was crazy. The fact that because I remember hearing about this band, and I remember seeing photos of them, thinking, oh man, there's gonna be a ton of people at this show. And metal really kind of, it had, you know, the resurgence hadn't caught on yet, but definitely, I saw them on tour with with Nevermore and Destiny's End. Actually,
cool.
that show did have a pretty good amount of people there, but the first time I saw them,
it was small.
Yeah, it was very small, but then they played at another venue and there were actually a lot more people there. But it was crazy. So anyhow, I got to be honest, it was a lot of fun to talk to you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man.
As always. And any last words for anybody, anything going on that maybe people would need to know about, to end off the interview?
Just keep an eye out for upcoming interviews on Podcast The Wicked. We're going to have more former Iced Earth members on the show, and I'm sure we're going to have Jon back at some point too. So, keep an eye out on it and check out my Facebook page, Metal Rose.
Yeah. By the way, I think it's cool you've interviewed a lot of the former members too.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good thing. And people are enjoying it, and there are so many spin-off projects. It just never ends with these guys. So
Hey everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching. And if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. And if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.